Appreciate you joining us today for our discussion about grant options as well as um, financial flexibility within higher ed. We're going to be discussing the NSF program and some of the options that are available there for IT leaders, but also we wanted to include our partners, Extreme Networks, and some of the licensing options they have to create be a bit more friendly to your budget, if you will, as it relates to some of the campus connectivity resources and solutions that Extreme Networks is famous for. I'm Saeed Gordon with DOF Creations, and joining me is Dane with Extreme Networks. Dane, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hello, Saeed. This is Dane Felician with Extreme Networks. I'm the national manager for the higher education vertical. Been at Extreme for the last 13 years and excited to partner with DOF Creations in presenting opportunities that we find very beneficial for higher education customers.
All right, awesome. Just to get started for everyone, the focus of this is the grant as well as the ECA program. So I wanted to highlight the NSF grant first. This is the second second wave or the second cycle of this. For those who can see my screen, we have March 1st and September 11th as the two windows for this program. From what we understand, next year, this will also have the same application windows, two application windows, one in the spring and one in the fall. This program itself, though, is focused on campus cyber infrastructure. The goal of this program is to help with planning and forecasting for digital expansion. Something that we'll be talking about a bit later on in another series is digital transformation. But in reality, you're not really transforming what you do from a technology perspective. You're just continuing to layer on new functionality, new resources, and new responsibilities. So the Campus Cyber Infrastructure program is really focused on helping you to plan and forecast what is coming your way in regard to your technology demands and requirements over the course of the next few years. And then where are you at today and what changes do you need to make to keep up with that, to match that, or to be prepared for that? So some of the things that are going to be the priorities for this, we see the data-driven networking infrastructure. We see the regional connectivity for small institutions, network integration and applied innovation, campus computing and computing continuum, regional computing, data storage, and then planning grants around research. So with this being an NSF program, there's still a heavy research and science element to this. We want to make sure that as we're looking at this opportunity, we're looking at this from the perspective of what is it that we need from our networks? What is it that we need from campus connectivity to be able to support the science, the research, the STEM efforts for your college, for your university, whether that's on campus or maybe some different initiatives that you have putting students or educators in the field. But we want to make sure that we're looking at the STEM impact of our network and the impact that this work or these research and education components have on the network. And that's something that's incredibly important as it relates to IT leaders in the work that you guys are doing every single day. Your network doesn't operate in a vacuum. You understand this better than anybody, but this grant takes that into consideration. What is it that is needed from your network, from a connectivity as well as a security perspective, to make sure that you're providing the resources that are needed on campus, as well as what's needed to make sure that you can deliver the network resources that fit your standard or match your standard that you have. For us, with a lot of the customers that we're working with, the priority area number one of data-driven networking infrastructure for the campus and researcher, and number three, network integration and applied innovation. Those are the two big areas for us, because of course, that plays heavily into the backbone of your infrastructure, which is your network, and allows you to kind of build a narrative around that. We understand that with September 11th coming up right around the corner, it can be challenging to try to meet this date, but please know that with this program, it's a good It's a good program to keep your eyes out for. If this is something that your college has done previously, any type of NSF grant, you already have a leg up or an advantage in being able to take what you've already built in regard to the administrative resources, the sign-ons, the approvals, but build your narrative around your network's impact on STEM education and the STEM research efforts of your college. Again, with our grant resources and our grant partners, if there's ever a need for hands-on support, please let us know. We can make sure that we refer you to the right people, the right grant writers who have experience with this program, who have experience with these types of NSF, STEM and science-focused initiatives. But again, this program is phase 2, or is it the second window of this program? From what we understand right now, there will be another 2 windows for this program in 2024. But on your college campus, look at this and think of this from the perspective of how is my network impacting STEM education and research in my college or at my university. Dane, I think this is the opportunity now where we can discuss the ECA program, which I believe stands for the Extreme Campus Agreement, correct? And that Extreme Campus Agreement is, not necessarily a funding source in the same way that a grant program would be, but as we're discussing financial resources or financial solutions for higher education to allow IT leaders within higher ed some more flexibility in what you're doing, the ECA program is a phenomenal resource and a phenomenal opportunity to make sure that you have the essential licensing and resources that you need to, again, support your network.
Yes, Saeed, that's a good transition here. As we're seeing from the grant funding endeavors that are there and accessible to higher education, there is a lot about data insight, data collectivity, and then using that data to kind of transform, technology resources, research opportunities, that it continues to improve the capabilities that the higher education institutions have accessible for their students, their faculty, and their staff. And with Extreme, one of the things that we pride ourselves in is providing a lot of data in real time that traverses the network, so that now these institutions have access to them for real-time modeling and then for real-time decision making. And as we consider making such infrastructure investments, there is always a good opportunity for how do I support all of these things, and then what are the costs that are related. So to your point of the Extreme Campus Agreement, and I'll share my screen here in a second. Yes. Are you able to see this? For sharing, great. So yeah, so the Extreme Campus Agreement, of ECA for short, is basically the one of Extreme's unique consumption offerings that better enables our education customers to manage their infrastructure, services, and support expenses with our software solutions with more predictability over time. Our ECA allows our higher education customers to price support for the network holistically, instead of at a device level, with enterprise-grade support SLAs without breaking the bank. So what does that mean? We're talking about you having the ability to have a support model that starts out at a very low cost, but yet still the SLAs are provided at a much higher a standard. And we'll go to more details in that in a second. But then consider now that our ECA allows our customers to have a fixed support model, a fixed support cost that does not change or increase, regardless of any purchases that are made for network infrastructure during the term of the ECA. You have a new building expansion, for example, that requires purchasing more network electronics, and that includes switches and access points, and include the software, the licensing, whether it's a cloud or on-prem management. None of these required purchases will incur any additional support costs for that newly purchased gear. And they still get the same service entitlement of all the existing equipment under the ECA. And that's what makes it so unique. It is very flexible. The predictability for budgets, it has been something that has made it so attractive to many of our customers. It is unique in the industry, and we're just very proud to offer it to our higher education institutions to kind of help them as they consider their financial expenses.
Thanks, Dane. I know we had, there's some questions that I wanted to go over this with you. When we're looking at the ECA really seems to be in response to some of the price increases that we've seen in IT since the pandemic. Was that, is that kind of the option or the way that other customers are seeing this? I guess, what are the kind of the thoughts of customers as they're able to utilize this? Because this is really, going in a different direction in a good way and giving customers kind of a break financially.
Absolutely. So the ECA has been around for a very long time. The Extreme Campus Agreement has been around for a very long time, but we've seen more of an uptick since the pandemic. And that is because, as higher education institutions have had to battle, say a dip in on-premise enrollments, and then having to transition to support enrollment opportunities online, which required, again, a different mind shift in the infrastructure. But at the same time, most universities were prepared for that. And then now is like now the challenges of like, hey, so what does the enrollment, now they're thinking of it from a virtual standpoint, how does that help them with bringing people on to campus, bringing them back on premise? So a lot of these challenges have kind of put sort of a ceiling on university capital expenditures, and so the ECA has kind of been a little more receptive. And again, it's because you still have to meet those demands, those technological demands of today's students, right? You still have to consider an increasing enrollment every new semester, every new fall semester. Right? There is still these things that still need to be provided, but at the same time, it's like, how do I accommodate it, cost effectively and making always wise financial decisions? And this is where we found that our ECA program has really stepped up in providing capabilities so that these customers can take advantage of it. And I'll move over to the next slide just to kind of give you a little more insight into what I'm talking about here. So as I look at this here, I want to point out a couple of things. Since this is a classroom, we're gonna play a little "Did you know" kind of session. So 2007. Do you know what happened in 2007 that was huge when it came to the student experience as it relates to the network topology on the campus, on a higher ed campus? Actually, it was a global phenomenon, but definitely higher ed saw that experience. And more so every Christmas, coming into the spring semester, there is that impact again in there. But 2007 was that turning point. Do you know what that was?
Streaming?
June 29th, 2007 was when the iPhone 7, was released. The very first iPhone was released. And since then, smartphones has started to dominate the impact onto the network. What does that mean? That now Wi-Fi started becoming something that is more prevalent onto as the medium for realizing experiences. No more are we walking around with a lot of these that are tethered to desktops. Now you get a lot more of these portable devices, and even better, they're getting smaller with the computing power coming in on here and the capabilities that they're providing, the app proliferation. These are the things that have literally just taken off and created this phenomenon that we're dealing with on the network. So then we have as well, now you see the explosion of Wi-Fi. 1999 was the first time we had 802.11b. We call that Wi-Fi 0 or Wi-Fi 1, I would say. That is where literally, this is the first time that you get consumer accessible Wi-Fi becoming there, but it was not yet mainstream. Then Wi-Fi, when we start having Wi-Fi, 802.11a and 11G started coming on, more and more devices start getting onto there. So much so you see the sharp curves. Look at the time span between 2013 and 2022. And we're projecting that, in 2022, there were 18 billion devices, and we're looking at in 2025, this is going to be double that number likely, just because of what that is there. A lot of this is the impact on university campuses, and they have to be able to accommodate. I had one higher education institution that would remind me that, after every Christmas holiday, they have the latest, the students are coming back with the latest Wi-Fi devices, and gone are the days where it was like you accommodating for 3 to 5 devices wirelessly connected. We're now in the range of 7 to 10 plus wireless devices that are now connecting, and they want that experience of wired experience. So the reliability of Wi-Fi, the capabilities that have to be delivered, and then the monitoring of it, getting the real-time analytics, getting AI so that now you can be predictive and proactive in the way you respond. All of these things have multiplied costs. And oh, by the way, every time you buy a new device, then there is a support, because it's an enterprise-grade solution that you're deploying. And now you have this support, that support, additional cost that has to be factored in. And this is where ECA just kind of jumps in and just kind of allows to, it's like, hey, listen, you can continue to make those purchases during your term, and we will factor this in on the next true up. But still, while you're making impact, it is more looking at the network from a holistic standpoint, rather than, oh, hey, listen, a device by device and a support cost and a support cost device, which again, just gives, a nightmare for IT departments as they consider their budgets and their balance sheets.
Definitely. And while you were talking about the iPhone and all of those different devices, I was thinking about just how kind of the prevalence of gaming and all the resources that are needed there, especially as games get more realistic with their graphics. It starts to look more like a video than a video game. And the resources needed, the bandwidth needed to make sure that that runs properly. You have so many students that are bringing in their devices, whether that's PC gaming, Xbox, PS5, all those different things. All of that adds to that. I'm curious, do you know what the 7 to 10 devices are per person? Because I'm kind of struggling to wrap my head around how could someone have so many devices?
So, we're now looking at the Alexa that's in the room. You have then your smart lights. Kids are now coming in where they have smart lights. They walk in, lights go on, lights go off. All of these are wirelessly controlled. You have, like you said, your gaming devices. A lot of those gaming devices are now like handhelds that can now kind of, connect and work, via Wi-Fi. You have their smartphones, you have their laptops, you've got their printers, you've got all of these little things that are set up within their room, and it just needs to connect like as if it was at home. But again, now you're in an enterprise, you're in a campus environment, and you have to provide that that safe and secure space for each and every student, whether they're in a dorm room, shared dorm room, across campus, in the labs. Universities are now embracing esports, and they have esport lounges, whether it be in the dorms or it be somewhere in the student center areas. All these things to continue to accommodate today's students and the experiences that they have come to expect as second nature, the network must be able to provide. And quite frankly, universities can't keep us with every wave of the next new devices. So they always have to be planning ahead. As you plan ahead, sometimes you can make that refresh upgrade that is instantaneous, or at times you're phasing it. But either way, these are expenses that can't necessarily be avoided. And the last thing we want you to be concerned about is that support cost, all those necessary support costs to continue to make sure you have an enterprise class structure that has the support behind it to continue to ensure that you can provide that best student experience across the entire campus domain.
Awesome. I want to I guess we've already mentioned support a couple of times. What does support look like under the ECA? Is it the same support, or are you getting, maybe it's a different type of support you're getting because the cost is a lot more friendly and flexible? What does support look like for a customer that's utilizing the ECA?
So that's a good question, and I'll jump ahead to this slide here to kind of help us out as we talk about it. So when we're looking at support, one of the things that we bundle in there is there is a license structure. A license structure for devices, whether they connect to the wireless or to the cloud, whichever there is. All of our licensing is bundled into the ECA already. By the way, our license is unique in the environment. We don't do licenses by family, class of device or whatever. Our license is one license, one device. We don't care what device that you have on the network, whether it be an access point, a switch. It could even be our third-party vendor devices. If you want to bring all of that under one management platform so that you have visibility into the entire network, an extreme network, while you still have the legacy other manufacturer network, we can bring all of that under one visibility so that you can plan accordingly. You can accommodate your planned obsolescence with all the right information at your fingertips. And so there is only one license that supports any device that attaches to the network. All these licenses are bundling. Then you're talking about now, and again, those licenses also includes whether we're providing our artificial intelligence capabilities into the infrastructure, into the environment, whatever software solutions that are tied in, we're tying that into the ECA, which is why we call it an extreme campus agreement. It's not just a software, a service and support agreement. Now we bring in the support element of it. We couple that with our world-class GTAC team. We continue to get from our customers awards by Gartner Peer Insights, primarily because of our technical support services. You make that phone call into the Extreme GTAC, you're going to get somebody that is tenured and that is an extreme employee. Why is that important? One, when it's somebody that works for the company, they're not just reading from a script. They have labs they can go to and they can work on your product. They have escalation teams that they have direct access to, potentially elbow room pairs kind of thing. And being an extreme employee, that means they're vested in ensuring that you are satisfied with the solution support that you're getting. So we have that GTAC support, and then you can call it even for consultative requirements, right? With this wraparound with the software under the ECA. And like I was pointing out here, is like all of our products come under entitlement. I know a lot of higher education, they like to look at some of the products, particularly at the edge, and consider them for, on a sparing strategy. Think of it this way. A lot of times you can have a sparing strategy in which that you're not necessarily using anywhere. Yeah, and then you may end up deploying it to other places because, hey, we got so many spares. We have this new thing. Let's put it, and you're depleting spares. Well, think of it this way. Technology is changing. I just showed you how fast Wi-Fi is changing. Folks, Wi-Fi 7 is already on the table. We just came out from Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6E, and now we're going to Wi-Fi 7. Who knows what's on the horizon? Again, that doesn't mean that we're making purchases every single time, but it just means that, especially if our solution, imagine you can have all the way to 802.11n and then Wi-Fi 7 under a single visible management plane. That capability is what we bring in. So what we're saying here is we're giving you at a very affordable cost of just TACAN OS. You need like a firmware update, you need something like that, the lowest cost possible, but yet still under the ECA Extreme Campus Agreement, you're getting next business day level support and not paying that price, right? So, and then we also bundle it, just to finally touch it all up, we bundle in our professional services under what we call ESUs. What does ESU stands for? Extreme Service Units. Folks, we can use that across anything that our professional services team can deploy. It's not just for installation. It could be for health checks. It could be for various activities, project-based, that can be deployed. They're good for 12 months. We give five are bundled in the ECAs. For any college or universities that's under 4,000 students, and those that are larger get 10 ESUs. And you get that every year for the term of the ECA. So you always have someone that is able to help you to move your installation around. Sometimes we have customers just use it just to say, it's like, hey, we've got this project, we've got those switches, and we need some help to just kind of like, kickstart this and get it going. We can help in with that. These professional service units can be used in this way. So there is a lot to be offered in there. It's a complete value package. And I'm so glad to see the uptick in the amount of colleges and universities that are rethinking this whole model of, looking at our Extreme Campus Agreement as a very unique offering in helping them with their bottom line.
Dane, how could hospitals or healthcare take advantage of something like this? Is there an offering to them?
Absolutely. So this is not unique just to our education customers. We have hospitals that will use it. Again, what I want us to focus on here is, this is something about looking. It's a consumption model that is looking beyond just device level coverage. Just imagine you have 1,000 devices, and then you have to pay. You're paying support for each of these devices. And now you're looking at is like I have a line item cost for each one of these. And now we're seeing is like, let's look at this from a very simple calculation model, which is what I put there. Let's just look at this from like, when we look at the campus agreement, and it's strictly tailored and started out in the education space. It's a student enrollment, and then there's a price per student that is determined from a network evaluation. So we work all that out. We show you clearly these kind of things. We forecast growth or maybe reductions into it, these kind of things. So but then you now come up with just an annual price. And again, remember, any additional hardware purchases that are made, they are automatically covered under the same service level at no extra charge. No extra charge. You're not paying for support of that device that was bought during the term of the ECA. So you bought 1,000, we started out with 1,000 devices, and we looked at, we figured out what is the holistic Extreme Campus Agreement price that factors in all these other things. We have that cost. Then you're like, hey, listen, I have a new building purchase or something to that effect in which you needed to buy another 100 of those devices. Oh man, I have to now accommodate 100 new support licenses as a cost factor. No, you're just only supporting 100 new devices completely entitled with the same service level as what was rolled out for the original 1,000. Right. So if hospitals, we have a different model that we look at. Being that I'm only focused on the education vertical, there are others that work within the organization to kind of figure out what that price would look like.
Okay, no problem. One thing I wanted to make sure we were clear on, and I know we're coming up on time. What's the minimum requirements or minimum criteria for college or university to apply for this? Minimum number of students or minimum number of devices? What do they have to be? Where do they have to be at to qualify? So
to qualify, pretty much the beautiful thing about having these conversations with us is that one, ECA is just one of these programs that we have. We always try to work with our universities to figure out what makes the most sense to them, so that they can realize these gains and these benefits of saving money, saving that CapEx dollar for potentially some universities have a concern of the enrollment cliff. The enrollment cliff is real, 2025, where all of a sudden we may have a dip in the number of people that are actually applying into universities. And there are more than 4,000 universities in the United States, and everyone is trying to get their fair share of those students. And if that all of a sudden decline happens, then that means some universities will have less student enrollment, reduction in their revenues. So there are more than one, we have more than one solution that kind of fits this. But if we focus on the ECA to then determine, hey, listen, is this a good program that fits for this, whatever university that we're talking to? One of the things that the first thing that I'm looking for is that first and foremost, do they want to realize these kind of savings and move away from this traditional model of, making support spends on a device by device level? Then the next thing that we're looking at is, what are some of the, what are the projections for enrollment? What is your overall cost for, what are you using right now? Are you looking at maybe getting term limits so that you can get like a fixed cost that is frozen in today's dollars? It may be a little more than what you're paying now, but as you see growth, would you consider a fixed cost in today's dollars that is, that is going to benefit you for 3 years, 5 years, these kind of things. The larger the universities, like those that are like, greater than 2,000, typically they start to see that because usually the support services are, well into the 6 figures of paying for support across the infrastructure. So these are typically those that would, that we would see a lot of interest in that, in trying to, get a handle on these costs.
Okay. One last question that we had as well, and I think you had also mentioned third parties previously, but what third parties can be covered under the Extreme ECA? What can a customer bring that's not Extreme that can fit under this model?
So when I said that we cover third party, it was with our licensing. So for bringing management and visibility of those devices. So imagine now, a lot of our customers, they're looking at, hey, listen, I have Cisco Meraki, but then I can't manage, and I love the cloud mindset of doing this, but I can't manage any Cisco switching on there. And then we're saying is like, hey, listen, one, I can bring a lot of the Cisco switching environment under my cloud interface so that you can manage it from the same place, because my cloud interface is not a controller in the cloud. It's really a manager of managers kind of, microservices architecture. And so in essence, what we're doing is we're bringing in a lot of, big data collection. We're bringing in a lot of, machine language capabilities, a lot of automation that can now be pushed out across the entire network, whether it's the wireless network or the switching environment, right? So from a manageability standpoint, we have that visibility into third-party devices. From a support perspective, obviously Cisco is not going to allow you to pay us for their support of their infrastructure. So what we're looking at here is like, hey, listen, a lot of times as folks are looking at their SmartNet contracts and they're like, listen, this is a lot of money, and they're trying to find ways. Most times they will see is that we can bring them savings with our support contracts and then bundle that into an ECA, locking them in for a price that is guaranteed for the years of term under their contract, and they realize those savings, which frees them up now to now make expenditures on what is really necessary, getting more hardware, rolling out wireless in these spaces where we've heard that students complaining, these kind of things.
Okay. One other question that we had was, if student enrollment significantly drops, can that be something that's taken into account in the ECA? If you have let's say a campus that maybe they see their student population drop by a couple hundred students due to some type of emergency circumstances. We had some school districts in North Florida that after a hurricane, their student enrollment went down at least for about a year, just because so many people had to relocate, or their priority was not, education at that time, so parents just basically sent their children off to stay with family, and the parents focused on rebuilding. In a college situation like that, or in a collegiate setting, where students are going to different schools, or maybe they're just working and helping their families get back on their feet rather than focus on school, what would happen if a college saw a significant drop in their student population during the life of an ECA agreement?
So that's a very good question. And I appreciate that thought process, because yes, especially in this day and age, the pandemic gave us historical evidence of seeing such things happening in there. What I love about working for Extreme, and I've had many opportunities to go in a different direction, but what I continue to appreciate at what we do is we value our customers tremendously, and we are very flexible with working with them. So starting out, one of the things that we'll always look at is like going through that qualification process to see, does, first and foremost, the ECA really does make sense. But let's say, everything is aligned, and indeed the ECA does make sense. Once we have the ECA in place, we have worked a lot with a lot of our customers to be flexible with them. We have had customers that when the terms of the contract, for example, has come to an end, and they want the flexibility of, hey, listen, I don't want to stretch this out over so many multi-years. Can we do, X, Y, Z accordingly to make such adjustments? We've done things to accommodate our customers. So this would be on a case-by-case basis. We continue to work with our customers. The sales team get involved. We factor certain things in, and we get stuff done. But again, these are always going to be, universities that where an ECA starts out from day one as that's the right model and right approach. Those that are not, like I said, we have other approaches where we have some very tailored services that kind of helps for such a downturn in time. And some of these programs might be more suitable on the start out. But within the ECA itself, we have some flexibility that we can work with our customers accordingly.
Okay. Well, Dane, I really appreciate your time today. And I think as more folks have more questions about the ECA and how it can apply to their college, obviously we'll make sure that, we're getting those questions answered and working with you and your team over at Extreme to see how we can utilize this to best support our customers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Said, thank you for having me on this. And I appreciate your interest in sharing this with the universities. It speaks a lot of volume about DOF and their passion for bringing all the right solutions before their customers, so that they can appreciate ways to have sustainability for their business. And higher ed, this is a vertical market that will continue to grow. There are some bumps in the road. Like I mentioned, the enrollment cliff that is up and coming. But there are a lot of things as the higher ed community communicates with each other, share resources with each other, depend on, whether they're public funds or private funds, whatever, the alumni. I've seen a lot of higher ed kind of rise above and continue to provide that much needed advanced K-20 support for their communities. And DOF and Extreme are there to help with that. So we're excited to take those questions, see what makes the most sense, and let's put a program in place that kind of helps keep moving things along.
All right, definitely. Thank you, Dane.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right.